he never stops moving. I have never seen, every time
Such a
I,
nice guy.
he is a
I
really
can't
nice guy.
remember where I was the other day, and I still
Got a
can't.
big problem out by Gunderson.
Was someplace we were eating and
Water meeting.
was a,
What's that, 8 o'clock, James?
it's like, hi.
Yeah. He's always so bubbly and
Yeah, he's always so
in a hurry.
happy
and
and, you know, meets you and everything.
He does a lot. He does a great job for the city.
Are we
Remember the,
No, I don't know what that was. That was just laying down there at the end. I don't know if they want us to hand it out at some point or not.
I wish I could.
Jared,
and they moved NCIS
are we
New
supposed to
Orleans
have
to
this?
the sandwich.
Yeah,
I mean, they got 2 winners.
yeah.
You know, they sandwiched this new show into.
As a matter of fact, they didn't make comments
I watched it last bowl, and it was, maybe it'd grow on me if
Oh, no.
Sure. We can have some good discussion on that.
trying not to
They need mental health
watch
tests. That's right, yeah.
shows, because I don't want to get hooked. I've already got enough shows that
Oh,
I
there's still another month, but I don't think,
don't want to add more of them.
I don't think it's gonna happen. Yeah,
Are we there?
All right.
just about.
I turned my mic on.
Clocks at home are different than my clock in my truck, and they're different than my watch.
Actually, you do.
I don't know what time. You just do
Should be on.
I want people to know who I
That
am.
assumes you have one.
I tell them Craig when I walk in.
I'm retired.
I was trying to take,
Why would you have a something like
I was trying to take a picture.
But I do.
Yeah, we all
all
tell
do that.
people we're Craig.
Right.
Jan does too. She tells everybody.
Wife and daughter with Nigel Hayes. And my daughter says, use my phone, and I'm going like this. And Nigel came out and he said,
Thanks a lot.
just lining up and push that button. And he said, and then he turned to my wife and said, they're so cute when they're this age. She said,
Nice.
Being smaller helps.
okay. Call the Plan Commission to order. September 27th, 2016. I need my glasses. There we go. Notice has been duly posted. Roll call.
Mayor Joe Chilson,
Here.
Bob Muth,
Here.
Jared Holter. Here. Jan Brock,
Present.
Paul Gleason. Knut Temte,
Present.
Craig Breitsprecher,
Here.
Andrea Benko.
Here.
Approval of the minutes of the previous meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Andrea, seconded by Craig. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. Public input, anybody wishing to give public input, please step to the podium, give your name and address, and you have 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to give public input? Second call, anyone wishing to give public input? Third and final call, anyone wishing to give public input? We will move on with the agenda. Consideration and possible action on the following items. Public hearing, approximately 7 o'clock, for consideration of a substantial modification to the Crossroads Center Planned Commercial Industrial District, PCID, at 9348 State Road 16, Onalaska, related to signage submitted by Bruce Lundgren on behalf of JLP Associates 2 of Eden Prairie, 6500 City West Parkway, Suite 315, Eden Prairie, Minnesota, 55344-770. Tax parcel number 18-3530-10 and 18-3531-5 and 18-3531-7. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I'd like to recuse myself from item number 4 to avoid any appearance of conflict of interest.
Okay, Craig stands recused. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this proposal? Second call, anyone wishing to speak in favor?
I'm Bruce Lundgren, the L in the JLP.
Okay.
And I was here maybe 28 years ago when we first presented the center and brought it through. And when we bought the property, it was 3 parcels. One was for the pylon sign, one was for the shopping center, and the third one was for a semi-truck turnaround behind our shopping center. And we realized there was a restriction on the pylon, but as we put the pylon up and built our shopping center, 70,000 square feet, and anywhere from 16 to 18 tenants, depending on, during the course of this last 25 years, who we've had in the center, we realized that we're woefully underserved by that sign. Next door, Wendy's has a sign that's probably 15 feet taller than us and almost as much square footage as our center. And our center, it's hard because we only put our anchor tenants on there. And when MC Sports came in, we even had to take the name of the shopping center down to fit it all within the square footage. So the reason being, what we'd like to do is put the name of the shopping center back up there so people know who we are. When we advertise, our tenants advertise, they say Crossroads Center. They're required to mention that, but yet there's no place where it says Crossroads Center except our monument sign. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we would like to add this reader board for the tenants. We probably 12 tenants that have no ability for pylon signage. And so this new style reader board gives them an opportunity to get their name out there. And we just think this would really help us. Our center sits back quite a ways from the road. We're not out front like Goodyear and Firestone or Harry Dole Center's right out there where you can see everybody. So signage to us is extremely important for our tenants, and especially our small tenants. So with that, I'll just leave it. If you have questions of me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
My name is James Fuchsel. I represent La Crosse Sign Company, 1450 Oak Forest Drive in Onalaska. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Message Center and the design in this, and we worked with Bruce on trying to come up with a nice design that was very tasteful and that looked nice. You got Harry Dahl. We just did the sign for him next door to Valley Plaza. So we're trying to come up with signs that look very tasteful and complement the city and look nice. And the Message Center is one that does meet all the codes. It meets the lighting codes that are in the ordinance as far as dimming capabilities. It's got scheduling to turn on and off whenever it's required, if that's something you want to put on there. But it does meet them, and I know some Message Centers out there too bright at night. I just want to reassure you this is a manufacturer that is dim, and it does meet the criteria of the city. Not all of them do, but this one does, so I want to make sure you're clear on that. Because it can be an issue if they are too bright and they don't dim correctly. So we looked at everything and made sure this was done tastefully and it had the right Message Center for what the city requires here.
Okay.
The reason this all came up now is we're remodeling the shopping center. And so we're putting a lot of money back into the face of the center and trying to update it after all these years. And we thought, our sign is real tired too, and that came into play with the whole discussion with architects. And we're not done remodeling yet. We're putting a new roadway and overlaying it and some other improvements to the property to make it look first class and new and vibrant. So that's the other part of the equation that we caused.
Okay, we may call you back up if somebody from the commission has a question. Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone? Okay, that portion is now closed. Well, actually, second call, anyone wishing to speak in favor. Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak in favor. I'm going to have to be out in the parking lot pretty soon talking to this, so we don't get any feedback. Third and final call. Okay, that portion is now closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Second call, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Katie?
Thank you. So as mentioned during the public hearing, the applicant is requesting to amend the planned commercial industrial district, PCID, to allow for a new, larger pylon sign to replace the existing multi-tenant sign that's currently serving the Crossroads Center development. Originally, they were allowed one freestanding sign in 1983 that would be allowed to be 20 feet in height and 100 square feet overall for both sides of the sign. This sign has been routinely refaced through the years with the addition of new tenants throughout the life of the development. In 1991, Crossroads Center 2 was allowed a second freestanding sign that you can see off of Bronze Street that notes Crossroads Center and advertises ground round. As mentioned also, neighboring properties both have taller and larger signs, including Wendy's, Goodyear, Valley Plaza, etc. There are many pictures that are within the packet that demonstrate the size, location, and overall height of those neighboring signs. And the Wendy's and TJ Maxx multi-tenant signs are within 100 feet of this particular sign. According to the Unified Development Code, there is a limitation that if you are within 100 feet, your new signage has to be limited to a maximum height of 15 feet and an overall square footage of 60 feet on each side, which is substantially less than what was approved back in 1983. The applicant is requesting to increase the height of the sign from 20 feet to 28 feet, and then the square footage from 100 square feet to 200 square feet. As this sign, excuse me, was originally approved as part of the planned commercial industrial district, it is an amendment to the district to modify that sign that is required. As mentioned, the intention is to identify the shopping center name, anchor tenants, and incorporate an electronic message board center. The proposed sign does meet the standards for how big the electronic message board sign can be. And we do have rules and restrictions placed by Wisconsin Department of Transportation, as this sign would be fronting on State Road 16 that they have jurisdiction over. They have reviewed, the Wisconsin DOT has reviewed the sign, and they do not have any concerns with it, provided that the shopping center electronic message board sign would only advertise for the tenants within Crossroads, and it wouldn't be an off-premise sign such as a billboard. Staff has come up with 7 conditions of approval tied to this development if the Plan Commission moves it forward.
Questions or comments by the commission? Okay, we probably should have a motion on the floor.
I'll move to approve with the 7 conditions.
Okay.
Second that.
Motion made by Paul, seconded by Skip, that for approval with the 7 conditions. Now, Andrea.
Okay, so I have a question about signs and how they all work together. So the sign that has TJ Maxx on the top of it is also, how does that factor in?
Please, would you step to the podium and identify yourself just for the transcriptionist, please?
Bruce Lundgren, one of the partners in JLP. The other sign you're looking at, the shopping center is split into 2 parts. The first was Cub, if you remember back. Cub was owned by the Minneapolis teachers, and then it got sold to a gentleman out of New York. And when they were approved, they were built before us, and they got put in a bigger sign, and at that time they had a gas station called Big Bear or something like that sitting out front, so they had a larger square footage. And so they're on one side of the road. Then we bought the balance of the property, which was set up for a shopping center, to develop the shopping center. That's what our company does, small tenant shopping centers. And so we were kind of the last man on the block, so to speak. Wendy's was already there with their sign. Goodyear was there with a sign. And now TJ Maxx, that sign was there.
But you don't own that sign then?
No, we don't have any ownership with that, but we just came in last, and of course, those signs are all there, and
Okay.
so we were kind of left with a deficit to begin with there. I mean, it would have been easier if we had one big pylon where we could just shared it together.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way.
And that was going to be my question, why can't you combine those two? But if you don't own them, that's why you can't combine them.
Owners, and
Yep.
I'm not sure he'd be willing to spend money on a sign right now.
No.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question or comment?
I guess I have more comments.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm in this intersection regularly for a lot of reasons, and I think this is a very busy intersection, and I agree that your sign is completely inadequate, given what's around it, but I hesitate to allow a bigger sign as a fix, because we're just going to end up with all these big signs that we can't do anything with down the road. And I think given how complicated this intersection is, this general intersection, I really have hesitations about the message board part of this. And it may be that it's intended to advertise the other tenants, but of course, the example in here was some special at Ground Round, so that's sort of like 2 plugs for Ground Round. But I just think that having those changing lights right there at that intersection with the mall and all the other signs is a lot of visual complication. So that's my concern there.
Skip?
I think this is a good improvement and should be approved. I think we need to move forward on things because the world has changed since this shopping center was built, and I think this in itself does improve the looks of it there, and it does improve the communications of shoppers who are looking for things. And I know myself in the looking at ads in the paper, it say such and such in Crossroads Shopping Center or some of the other centers, and I'm not always sure which one they're talking about there. And so I think this is a very necessary improvement, and I think we should approve it.
Bob?
I'm going to agree with Skip. I think this is a real good idea. I think it's a good improvement. And this sign represents a number of businesses, not just Goodyear, not just Wendy's. It represents all the different individual stores in there. So if I'm from out of town driving, I'm looking for whatever business, I can see that sign and know it's in here. Goodyear has the advantage, Wendy's and stuff, because they're right there. But I think this sign is a real good idea to identify what businesses are in this mall so they can get off. And even though I agree with Andrea that the traffic and all that, but still, if they know the business is in this shopping center, then they can move over and get into the shopping center. But otherwise, they're driving by, they don't know, they can't find this location, they want to go to PetSmart or whatever. But I think it's a real good idea.
Okay, anyone else? Go ahead.
So the orientation of these two signs, the one is not going to block the other. The TJ Maxx sign won't block your sign when you're coming from the south? Because if they're the same height, they're going to be, I'm not sure they're going to serve that purpose.
I don't know the exact height of the TJ Maxx. I know they're, combined, they've got to be around 200 square feet or more. We sit in 2 different places. So when you come down the road, believe me, I've driven this both directions now about 10 times where, is this okay? Is this going to be good? Is this a good investment, or is it going to get blocked by something? And no, theirs sits a little different angle than ours. So when you're coming from La Crosse and making a left turn, we have a separate left turn pocket, which really helps. We aren't at the actual intersections.
Right.
As you cross the intersection and come across, then you make that left in. So, it's not like everybody's sitting outside that entrance waiting to make a turn in. There's just one lane that comes that direction. So, but they are offset.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thanks. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
1 nay. Abstentions? Motion carries.
I'm an abstention.
Oh, he's recused, that's different.
Oh,
So, yeah, it is different.
I've never recused.
When you recuse, you are pulling yourself out of the discussion also.
Okay, and the abstention is automatic.
It's just you're not voting. Okay, item 5. Public hearing for consideration of a substantial modification through the Crossroads Center to Planned Commercial Industrial District, PCID, at 9348 State Road 16, Onalaska, related to construction of Mocha freestanding coffee shop, submitted by Bruce Lundgren on behalf of JLP Associates II of Eden Prairie, 6500 City West Parkway, Suite 315, Eden Prairie, Minnesota, 55344-7701, tax parcel number 18-3530-10. Okay, public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor?
Once again, Bruce Lundgren, partner in Crossroads Center. For years, we've tried to get a coffee shop in our center, and we have not been able to do that. It's one of the things that the tenants are all asking about, especially the employees. We can't get coffee, you know. We tried to get Caribou before they located where they were now, but and Starbucks, but they all want drive-throughs these days, and the only place we can do a small coffee shop with a drive-through is in an area out towards the point, which has good visibility, the intersection. It's closer to Harry Dahl's Center. I don't know what else, what they call that, Center Valley Plaza, I think. So,
Yeah.
And it would be freestanding, allowing them to have visibility to the intersection. And one reason I like this, I stopped at this one in Rochester. They have 2 of them there. And there isn't what I would call a squawk box, you know, when you order your food or your coffee, you have that noise coming back and forth. You just drive up to the window, tell them what you want, get it, and drive off. We're usually getting into trouble with drive-through is loudspeakers. People in the neighborhood can hear that. And so that's one thing that's really a plus here, besides the fact they don't roast coffee on site, which causes a lot of smells. They brew coffee, but they don't roast it, which is a big difference. And it's very small, very unobtrusive as far as our shopping center goes, and something that would not block the visibility of our ground round, our newest tenant. We wouldn't do it if it was blocking that, because it's too crucial for us to have visibility for them and success for them as well. So for us, it fulfills a need, and it provides a service that we think we have, you know, between the TJ Maxx and our center, a couple hundred employees there, and nobody sells coffee.
Okay.
You can get a beer, but you can't get any coffee.
Wow.
Okay. We may call you back up again at some point if the commission has some questions. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Second call, anyone wishing to speak in favor? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak in favor? Okay, that portion is now closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Second call, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Public hearing is now closed. Katie?
Thank you. As stated, the applicant is again requesting to amend the planned commercial industrial district to allow the construction of a 400 square foot freestanding drive-up coffee shop in the northeastern corner of the existing lot at 9348 State Road 16, east of Ground Round, not west of Ground Round. Apologies for that. The structure will disturb 8 parking stalls, and 16 parking stalls would be restriped to create diagonal parking. to facilitate the one-way drive-through. They also intend to create one additional ADA stall to serve this site. Staff came up with 3 considerations for development to be considered by the Plan Commission. Adding additional landscaping or screening along the northern property line, noise or odor concerns for neighboring properties, as mentioned, looking at hours of operation, things of that nature, and then consideration of requiring a repavement of a portion of the private drive serving the existing development. Included in the packet were the letter from the applicant describing the development, site plan, and building elevations. We have 6 conditions of approval tied to this development if approved by the Plan Commission.
Okay, thank you, Katie.
You're welcome.
What is the wish of the commission?
Move to approve.
Second.
6 conditions.
Motion made by Andrea, seconded by Paul, to approve construction of MOCA with the 6 conditions. Questions? Go ahead, Andrea.
Okay, I've been trying to figure out where this is. There's a cell tower structure there. Is it east and north of that structure?
Be north along the northern property, northern parking lot, right?
Right on the private line?
Right on the parking lot, yep. Be very close to the cell phone tower building that actually
Yeah,
runs,
the cell phone tower has a little building, if you know where that is. It's just back from that, 15 feet, maybe, 20 feet at the most.
Okay.
So just slide it to the west, is that right, Katie? You had the directions. To me, it's west, towards Round Round.
It's kind of kittywampus.
But it's-
Oh, okay.
We have a pretty good, generous parking lot going out that far. And so that little building is kind of tucked into the hillside, or the berm.
Right,
And
yeah.
then the cell tower is actually in a parking lot light. It's in like the middle.
Right, yep.
Of the parking lot.
So you would be between that little building and ground round as opposed to between the little building and the driveway?
Yes, it's.
Okay,
This
okay.
building will be on the curb line, just like the cell tower building is.
Right, yep.
Just slide it back, about 15 feet, and that's
Okay.
where it is.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Jan?
I'm still sighting in. So you're south of the entrance to Subway.
North.
You're on the north property line, so if you go to the very, if you come in past Subway and you'd make a right turn to go into ground round, this is continuing to the right, so it'd be north, on the north property line, that north parking bay.
Where they turn in or come out won't interfere with the Subway.
No, it actually doesn't line up, it'll be just down from that entrance into that Valley Plaza.
Okay, and then my second question is, I'm not a coffee drinker, so I don't know anything, but I think one of these just closed in the La Crosse area?
Yeah, well, they relocated and actually started construction on that.
Okay.
They moved it closer to the clinic. They would have taken the building down, but the owner of the property, they were leasing it, wanted the building. So they've upgrading all their units. They have a couple in Madison too, right?
Sir, would you please come to the podium? And please identify yourself for the transcriptionist.
Kevin Bozer, I'm the CEO of MOCA. We are a growing company. We did have the unfortunate closing of the one in Ross. We're looking to expand from that. We have 2 in Madison, 2 in Rochester. All 4 doing extremely successful. The one in La Crosse is doing extremely well as well. Based out of La Crosse, I work downtown La Crosse every day. Local company, and we're looking forward to the opportunity of doing business in Onalaska.
About how many cars do you expect to go through this on a daily basis, based on your other stores?
400.
Oh, 400? Oh, okay.
Okay. Jared?
The one thing when I look at this is being in that north property line, there's a couple of houses that are relatively close. Actually, the street is just behind this, behind the berm. So from the original subdivision that went in. So the only thing I would say is we should probably, through the site plan process, is make sure they enhance the landscaping along that residential buffer would be probably something that would, just to make sure, you know, you put some evergreens or something in, so if there is a little bit of noise or something, it knocks it down. You know, just at 6 a.m., I assume they start opening at 6 a.m., 5:30, so, you know, we don't want any noise to carry into that neighborhood from that, so.
Do you want to put that as another condition?
We can.
Could I
hear what-
speak to that? I did talk with 2 out of the 3 neighbors, and the one neighbor that's the closest, actually sitting in the back, the Lawrences. And we walked the site, and, you know, I think, if I remember right, hydrangeas were the preferred method of, was that, no?
Ma'am, would you please come up to the podium just so we can get this on the record?
Patrick Lawrence, 721 Dutton Street.
Okay.
Wife and I, our property is in relations to where this building is going. If we look out our bedroom window.
It's right there.
It's right there. What we were thinking is, if it was going to be an issue, then we'd like something put in there. If it's not going to be an issue, then there's no need to put shrubs or a fence.
Okay.
Or any.
They could wait.
But
So you want to take a
Like it
wait
in
and
the
see
minutes,
attitude?
that-
Is that what we're is that what I'm hearing? So we're going to wait and see to see if there's any noise problem?
yeah, if
Well,
there-
from what we understand, it's going to be right up to the curb,
Okay.
which is fine because the grassy area that's there is beautiful.
there's a berm.
Okay, yes.
And that berm actually does buffer most
Okay.
things other than the or the garbage waste trucks that go to round. But other than that, you know, I don't see
Okay.
where this is gonna be an issue.
Okay.
But we'd like to know that, or we would like it put in that if this does become a problem, we'd like something done.
Katie?
Yeah, we could address that during the site plan process. And
Okay.
add a condition to the site plan. I think that would be adequate enough and outline something in the site plan that would envision if there is a problem, we can go back and enforce that site plan condition. I think that would be fine.
Thank you.
I just wanted to bring up the point that I had indicated that there's a number of coffee shops in the area and was concerned about it sustaining itself, and asked Mr. Lundgren if the coffee shop didn't work out, would that building stay empty? And he said if it didn't work out, he'd take the building down.
Okay.
So that's what I was told by Mr. Lundgren. I just wanted to add that to the minutes.
Okay. Oh, yes.
So is there room behind that building to drive around the back? If it's right up on curb line, you can't, so there's no headlight issue or anything?
There's no room to drive. It's a berm that's probably 6 feet high.
And it's flush with that.
And I would just like to say, you know, whatever they need for screening, we're willing to do, whether it was a fence, evergreens,
Okay.
hydrangeas, name it, you know, because they are close to it, and we appreciate that. So.
Okay. Okay, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions?
Aye.
You're abstaining? Okay. One abstention, motion carries. That wasn't what you told me you were going to do at first. Okay, okay.
Thank you for contacting the homeowners ahead of time, too. That makes our decisions
Thank you.
easier. So I appreciate that.
Public hearing for consideration of rezoning request filed by Tyler Edwards on behalf of Menards Inc. Properties, 5101 Menard Drive, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, 54703 from a combination of light industrial M1 and industrial M2 to light industrial M1 and industrial M2 to accommodate new CSM parcel boundaries at 1301 Sand Lake Road, County Road S, and 902 Riders Club Road, Onalaska, Wisconsin 54650, tax parcels number 18-4523-25, 18-4523-26, and 18-4523-27, and 18-4523-28. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Second call, anyone wishing to speak in favor? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak in favor? That portion is now closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Second call, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? What is the wish of the commission? No, we go to Katie after.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Andrea to approve, second by Craig.
And that includes the 5 conditions from staff.
Yes. Katie.
Thank you. What we have is consideration of a rezoning application from a combination of light industrial M1 and industrial M2 to accommodate new CSM parcel boundaries. Properties within 250 feet of those in question include a variety of commercial businesses, State Road 53, Sand Lake Road, and vacant land. The comprehensive plan identifies this area as commercial, intended to accommodate large and small-scale commercial and office development with a wide range of retail, lodging, and office uses would all be appropriate within this district. Menards currently has 4 parcels, which were reconfigured from a total of 6 previously in the summer of 2016. The intention of this rezoning, as requested by the applicant, is to have the parcel where the Menards building is located, to have that remain as M2 industrial, and then the 3 outlots that were created as part of the certified survey map, which are primarily split zoned between industrial and light industrial and industrial, to have them all go to light industrial, so that the parcel boundaries match the zoning boundaries. Because we can't have a property that's zoned 2 different zoning districts because there are conflicting setbacks and uses and rules associated with each. So we had requested that Menards pick 1 district for each lot, and this is what they have opted to do with their property. We do have, as noted, 5 conditions of approval tied to this development if moved forward by the Plan Commission.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
Katie,
comments?
Katie, this is kind of housekeeping again, isn't it?
Yes.
Quick question, just historically speaking, and I know you and I talked about this before. Are there actually 2 different zones under the existing building right now?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a combination of light industrial and industrial. Okay. So that's why we're requesting the rezoning as the next step to prepare Menards truly for future development of their outlots.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Clean it up a little bit. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 7, discussion and consideration of an amendment to the Unified Development Code, UDC, regarding draft language for the creation of a new medical campus zoning district. Katie.
Thank you. So attached in your packet is the draft language for a medical campus zoning district. So as you've seen with previous plan commissions, we have light industrial, industrial, commercial, 3 different commercial districts, 3 different residential districts. Each one of those districts comes with its own set of rules, setbacks, uses, what's outright permitted, what is conditionally permitted. We saw a need to create a medical campus zoning district This need came out of our comprehensive planning process that we've done over the past 2 years. As we have existing medical campuses within the community, and there is another proposed land that is currently vacant, owned by the Mayo Health System. So we're trying to be forward-thinking and create a medical zoning district that was called out in the comprehensive plan. A summary of what includes in the district is the purpose, how the district would apply to vacant sites that are not developed, and sites that have existing development, how they would play into that particular district. Require a campus master plan with specific content of what it would have to include and standards for review. We also have listed permitted uses, accessory uses, and conditional uses. Then we've also specified specific height, setback, and area requirements. We've also included architectural review standards and site design. Many of those standards are what we do on a day-to-day basis when we're regulating new commercial development, so this is not new. This is just in an ordinance format specific to this particular district. And then we have new signage regulations, as medical campuses have different signage needs than your typical commercial development seen throughout the community. The requested action for tonight is to provide me with feedback. What do you like about it? Do you have questions on certain aspects of it? We've also routed this language to city staff, which we're getting feedback on as well. This is not the first time or the last time that you will see this draft ordinance. We're just gaining feedback right now. We've also sent this information to the 2 existing medical communities within our area. We've received some feedback, and we're waiting to get all of that. So we're actively pursuing public input to make this the best code that we can. Formal consideration, as this would be part of the zoning code, there will need to be a public hearing when we're ready for that to happen and not before. So if you have any questions or feedback, I would appreciate hearing them so we can keep modifying this draft language.
Great.
Katie, first of all, thanks for taking the time to talk through this with me the other day. You spent a lot of time with me, and I appreciate that. One of the things that I wanted to point out to everybody, because I think it can lead us astray a little bit, when it's referred to architectural review of a building, that's standard language. It's not about bringing some independent architect in to question their design. It's about actually taking a look as a city in conjunction with those folks, taking a look at the design and does it fit with what our intentions are as a city and with what they need to accomplish as a facility. So after having walked through that with Katie, that's one of the concerns I had. You mean we're going to bring in an architect to question their design? No. This is just standard language that allows us to take a look at that particular aspect. So just thought I'd share that with everybody.
Jan?
Is the 75 feet, thought standard language too? I don't, I'm not sure.
Yes, so typically when we review commercial development, we want to make sure that they're interesting facades, that people are investing in them. We're trying to get away from the large rectangular boxes and have more interesting architecture. So this is something that we have been requiring every 75 feet to give us something, either add a column, have a different paint color, maybe you have a material change, just different things to break up the facade so that it's more interesting and appealing to customers.
It's not overly restrictive. It's
correct. It's it's a minimum standard. We're not requiring all these different loopholes. Or all these different standards. It's saying this is what at a minimum we'd like you to do. You can do more, and we would appreciate it. But at a minimum, this is what we want.
And it shows too.
Right.
I had a concern about that, so thank you.
Skip?
Katie, have you received any feedback yet from Gunderson or Mayo?
Yes, I have received some written comments. And we as in city staff will be meeting with them next week to discuss their comments that they received we've received comments from Gunderson Health Clinic so far. So we're going to sit down and walk through them and educate them on the code, and if they would like to rezone. Keep in mind, the city is not requiring that anyone adopt this zoning ordinance. This is an opportunity for these campuses if they meet the standards.
I think I would be very interested in you giving us information on the feedback. I think the rest of the panel would also, so.
Yep, and that's our intention, is to, if I have it from both, to present anything that comes out of those discussions. As stated, this is a working document, so at the next Plan Commission meeting, there may be changes, and if there are, they would be highlighted and noted so that you would be able to see what changes have happened in the last month.
Yeah, the real reason for meeting with everybody is to streamline this process so that we don't get these hiccups at meetings, and everybody kind of knows what's expected of them, and as they move through the process, there's no surprises. So, Skip.
One thing that I was a little confused about, that cleared up in the subcommittee meeting, is that this would only apply to medical facilities that are greater than 5 acres or greater.
Correct.
So any facility that's smaller than that, this does not apply.
Paul?
The one thing that jumped out at me when I read through it was the permitted signage and the square footage allowed, and it struck me that it could potentially be a lot of signage. It didn't seem that it was related to building size at all. I think there's one statement that each facade may not have wall signs that exceed 500 square feet in sum. But on a small building, that can be pretty overpowering. So can you explain the process on that?
So wall signs in particular, that is a direct link to our existing code. So you are allowed today to have a sign up to 500 square feet or 40% of your overall wall. You can do that. And we look at those signs, and it's in some that you can't break 500. So we were drawing from our existing language on that. That wasn't creation of a new. And again, we're trying to be flexible with how they want to use their properties. They don't have to utilize all the options.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that they have options if they want. And as for, excuse me, the internal signs where you drive through a campus and you note, a perfect example would be Gunderson Health System. They have a number of freestanding signs throughout their property that are directing you to the renal center, to the emergency room, urgent care. So that's the purpose of doing it this way, is that depending on when you have 5 acres and you're using that entire site, you're going to need to provide directions for pedestrians and vehicles. And emergency services, exactly, so that they know where they're headed towards. So the 150 square feet is estimating an approximate 10-foot in height by 15-foot wide sign that could accommodate that directional sign of nature. So.
Okay.
Andrea?
All right, so I had a couple things that, first of all, 100 feet tall for a building is along the bluff especially, and any building of any size anywhere is going to be along the bluffs. It just seems like that's really high, so I have concerns about putting something that tall at the base of any of our bluffs. But that's just a concern there, and I know we've talked about that. So the other two that I have, there is nothing, I don't think there's anything in the plan that details the number of access points into the complexes that are needed, and I think from a traffic flow standpoint, we ought to maybe address how many different ways in and out we want, and that comes about because, again, we're pinned on one side. And then along with that would be a connection in the planning process with the emergency services folks so that they can help to lay out whatever design features they would need in order to be able to get an ambulance in or a fire truck or whatever. So I don't know that that's in the plan anywhere, but maybe it's something that ought to be, is that connection.
Yes, that does go, the fire chief and police chief will both look at this document, so, but Jared?
I'll start with the fire access and emergency access. There's we actually discussed that at staff level, and we have, for instance, the fire department has a 2-page sheet that they attach to site plans that outlines their needs, such as 20-foot wide emergency access can support 80,000 pounds. Those are things we didn't want to have in this code. These are things that we looked through as part of the site plan. Those things are all addressed as part of that, and that we felt was different than what this proposed code would do. So those things are already established. We cite the National Fire Code and our established standards and things. So those are continual things that we constantly, the fire department's always part of the staff team that meets with developers right off the start of any project. As far as access points, traffic, things like that, those are actually outlined in different areas of the code that for any development, not just medical development, but I have the ability to enforce a traffic impact analysis for any development when it comes in if I feel it's warranted or we don't have proper facilities or I think there's going to be part of the facility that's going to be taxed by what's going in. With that, the proposed development in the area of the Menards, the Mayo site, has already performed a traffic impact analysis. That's been part of the scenario. But there's also one was done when Gunderson came in and things like that to get the proper facilities out there. So that's also something that kind of fits more into the over-encompassing for every district, not just the medical districts. That's the reason it's not really outlined in there. So.
And just to follow up on that, so one thing that we are looking for is the campus master plan. So the master plan is where they lay out building footprints, parking lot areas, landscaped areas, pedestrian paths, sidewalks, things of that nature. And as part of that, they would lay out access or areas where they would like to connect in, which Jared would be reviewing. What is further laid out in there is, so that's just the overview of what they're looking to do. When they would come in with another, say they want to put their first building or 2 buildings in the parking lot, and maybe it'll share it or whatever they want to do, that will require staff review as a site plan that we do with all new development and redevelopment in the city. So essentially, we're trying to have a guide for the city with the campus master plan so that the community knows what to expect out of it, and then only if they choose to change it, or they can update it every 5 years and the different timeline that is proposed in there, so that we know what to expect. But then as they come in on an individual basis, they still have to get site plan. That process is very similar to a planned unit development. Perfect example, Nathan Hills. Every time they want to change something, they amend their planned unit development. Or when they want to add in that's when the Festival Support Center went in, that area was zoned appropriately to allow that commercial retail aspect office to go in, but city staff didn't have to do anything until they came in with that development. And that was done by the city, and that didn't require the Plan Commission action. So those are just 2 ways in how it works together. So it's not giving hands off to the Plan Commission and the council, but it will still require city review on everything they do before they turn dirt.
Greg, and then Paul.
And I think it's important, too, that as we go through this process, we remember that these major medical facilities are truly unique. That's why we're creating a medical zone. They have special needs, and we need to allow them the flexibility to make sure that those services that they provide to the area can be done, for the most part, without obstruction. And when we look at things like, for example, ambulance access, they are probably as much of an expert at that as any of our staff would be. For example, I know Mayo owns, or at least is heavily affiliated with, the Gold Cross Ambulance Service, which last time I heard had over 20 locations. So they're real familiar with what needs to be done with those types of things. But again, as Katie alluded to, we still have city oversight and we have city involvement in those as a cooperative partner in these types of ventures. But I'd be real careful about overregulation and allowing them to do the things that they need to do to provide the services that are so important to all of us.
Paul?
I just wanted to comment relative to the building height. I looked at that and thought about it and really don't have an issue with it. It's considerably lower than our bluffs, and if we're talking about the possible Mayo site, the bluff next to it is, I don't know, 300 feet high or so. So it's considerably lower than that. It amounts to maybe 8 or 9 stories. And I think we need to give them as much flexibility as possible to design what they think works most efficiently for them. So I don't have an issue with the height.
Katie?
Also to note, we currently allow all of our light industrial land to go up to 100 feet in height. So as the majority of the city's commercial land is light industrial, you could see 100-foot buildings throughout the entire city. So that is a standard policy that we just merged with the medical zoning district. Also be aware that there is the airport overlay height zoning district, which provides a very strict cap on how tall some of these buildings could go. I did have 3 questions that I wanted to, did you want to say something? And that the height can go higher. Also, if they want, for every 5 feet in height increment, they have to add a 1 foot additional setback. So the higher they go, the more they have to set back between buildings, and that ties back to safety and access and spacing between. So my 3 questions specific to the code that have come up so far that I'd like to pose to the Plan Commission for some feedback. One of the conditional uses versus outright permitted. Things of nature such as the helipad, the emergency services, things that tend to make noise that may have an impact on neighboring residents. Right now, we have that listed as a permitted use. Specifically, where did it go? Helipads or helistops, ambulance or medical carrier services. Do you feel that that's appropriate? Does that belong in a permitted use section, or is that something more conditional use to get the 250-foot list? Granted, this site is over 100 acres, so we would be potentially notifying many people for those conditional uses, which is wonderful if that's what we're looking for is neighborhood feedback. So just a question.
Go ahead.
I can offer you some feedback. I think it would be nice. I have no problem with a helipad, and I think it's an important part of a medical center. There are some places in that particular area where you could put it where it would be less intrusive. And there was I can't remember what the event was, where they ran helicopter flights out of that field. And living in that neighborhood, I can tell you that those bluffs are an incredible resonator. I mean, things rattled off shelves in our house every time the helicopter would take off. So, you know, if we did it as a conditional use, we could maybe work to get that more towards interstates or the Highway 53. I mean, we kind of get it on that end, although, again, I think the clinic probably needs to site it wherever it's best for them. But that, I mean, that would be a huge impact on the neighborhood right there. We were amazed at what those helicopter tours did to our neighborhood.
Paul?
We're potentially talking about sites as low as 5 acres and conceivably could be in other areas of the city as well. And I guess with that in mind, I can see the possibility of situations where we might not want a helipad or want to have a lot of control over where it is. So I think I would be in favor of making it a conditional use that gives us a little more ability to influence it.
Okay. Any other?
I've I've always liked conditional uses. I think a lot of things can be handled, negotiated, worked out through a conditional use process. And I think Paul brings up an excellent point, and I think we have to be farsighted enough to understand that although we're looking at a major development at this time, there may be other developments down the road that require a little bit more consideration than what we might be looking at in the outset for a major development. I think maybe the conditional use route is the right way to go, but I think with the final language being a ways off yet, because we want to analyze the input we get from the major suppliers, I think we'll be in a position to judge that a lot better after we take a look at their input.
Okay, Katie, do you have other questions?
I have two others.
Okay.
There's been one question regarding the definition of the medical campus district. We don't specifically have a particular definition that states this is what a medical campus district is. Rather, we've given the purpose of it, what our intention is, and then the permitted accessory and conditional uses. We do have a few sites throughout the city. That was an exercise of staff of saying, okay, let's look at some sites with 5 acres and at least 5 acres, and who might be people or businesses that could come forward and say, hey, I have 5 acres. I like the flexibility in here. I want to jump on. So there are some sites that were identified, such as nursing homes or senior housing developments that have 5 acres of land, but they aren't necessarily a medical campus. Bear in mind that if someone had a 6-acre plot of land and they wanted to put up a senior housing and they wanted some additional abilities and rules, staff would likely push them more towards a planned unit development where they can be more flexible with the codes as is currently, which is what we typically see. So it wasn't a specific question to the Plan Commission, but just knowing that this is consistent feedback that we've heard. So we're looking at defining it tighter so that that doesn't happen. And we have these smaller sites that are 5 acres, but where they don't have 1 or 2 buildings, and then that's it. And then they get the additional flexibility with the medical campus. So just wanted people to be aware of that, because there are a few scattered throughout the city that might try to take advantage of the code. The last comment to note is that we've had a couple questions. A perfect example is Gunderson. So Gunderson has a public road that loops through the land. Their acreage in total is far beyond the 5 acres. But there's a question: if you have 2 parcels of land that are owned by the same property owner but are divided by a road, do you want that to be a reason to not let them? If they have 3 acres on one side of the road and 2 acres on the other side of the road, could staff add them together, get 5 acres, and then let them do a medical campus? Is that appropriate? Is that not appropriate? PUDs require that the land has to be 1 tract of land, or could be 3, but they all have to be adjoining. So that's one potential question that has come up.
Katie, you're talking about 2 different tax parcels, correct?
Right, so it'd be a tax parcel on, for example, one side of Sand Lake Road and a tax parcel on the other side of Sand Lake Road, and together they total more than 5 acres, and they want to do a medical campus. It could be just as, it could be a children's hospital or something that wants to do that, but they don't have the 5-acre tract that is contiguous. Is that something for consideration? Do you like that?
So a medical campus, as we've been envisioning it, in 1 parcel, those roads are all private, right?
Not necessarily. They can put public roads and dedicate within, Jared.
Yeah, for instance, the Gunderson campus has Gunderson Drive, which is a public street that loops through the whole development, but their administrative centers on one side and the clinics on the other. They also have vacant land along the La Crosse River Valley, a strip that actually is part of the campus master plan. So that's all part of their what they consider their campus. So that's For instance, if, say, the main campus had 20 acres on it and they had 3 acres on the other side of the road, could they include that as part of their campus, medical zoning district? So that's the question that's come up that we're just looking for feedback on, trying to, for instance, the Menards parcel, Menards has a 2-acre outlot on the corner of Riders Club by the roundabout. Well, if you got 80 acres medical on the other side, what if they want to add that 2 acres to their campus? That probably is a little extreme because you got a very much different road than Gunderson Drive, but it begs the question of what do you consider and not.
Did we get through all 3 questions?
Does staff see that as significant?
We've seen it both ways. We've seen some sites that are 4 acres and across the street is another 1.5 acres. There aren't many 5-acre tracts of land totally contiguous left in the community. There are some, but there are some that could also be posed for more interesting redevelopment. And that's another thing that we've been talking about, is that as we run out of this large areas of green space and we're expecting to see more redevelopment, if people are acquiring land on both sides of the road and they want to use that, is that of interest?
But I mean, does staff see a problem with that? I guess it wouldn't.
Not necessarily. Well,
I don't know why you would even bring it up. It just seems like it would just be natural if they were just across the street, as opposed to down the block.
Right, so that's the question.
Obviously, there's an issue that staff has identified.
It's not necessarily an issue, it's more so of, it's different. Because one of the exercises we did was highlight the differences between the planned unit development and what this district would do, because they're very similar in terms of they give additional flexibility, you can set your own rules, so to say. So this is one thing that came out of that. Well, you only need contiguous for a PUD, but a medical campus is different. This is one of those extra things showing where our current code doesn't necessarily apply and is equally, facilitates to a medical campus. So it's just a question because it's different from the code of what you think.
Jan?
Would this be like the Gunderson campus downtown, where the ICE building is on the south?
Yes.
South, now the direction, the south side, and then the Founders Building is across the street, across West Avenue?
I think another good example is on the Gunderson campus, you have the Renal Dialysis Center and you have the old Fauver Hill School. I would guess that site is probably close to 5 acres, but it may be under 5 acres actually between those two. So then that's one where it really is part of the campus and they planned it as part of the campus, but then is it not part of the campus because you wouldn't allow it?
That's not even across really the street, is it? It's kind of.
It's across South Kenny Cooley Road, separates basically the main Gunderson campus and the Renal Dialysis Center.
But it's more in front of Stony Creek, right? Or does it?
But it's all part of the same master campus plan. It's all part of their master campus plan. So,
Paul?
I really think we need to have the flexibility to allow non-adjacent parcels to be part of the same plan. If we're using the Mayo property as an example, I mean, it's certainly conceivable that there can be public streets and private drives, private streets planned within that campus. Now, so for that reason, I don't want to see it limited to only adjacent parcels. I can see with some of the examples you've brought up, the possibility for someone attempting to abuse this zoning category, use this zoning category to accomplish a purpose when it's really not a campus. And I guess my response is the Plan Commission and the council always have the authority to reject a rezoning request.
True. And the other thing to bring up is that there are a couple sites that aren't quite 5 acres, but landowners own property across the street that can't do a planned unit development. It's not an option because it's not contiguous. So this would essentially open a door for other folks if they wanted to do a hospital or a clinic or something of the nature of what's in here, that they would have that flexibility. So you're essentially giving redevelopment a shot, more so than just green space.
And it's up to the city to
Right.
look at a plan and decide, is this a good plan, or are they taking advantage of it to accomplish something? So,
So, and it would be done through the rezoning process.
Right.
So that
And I-
has to occur.
And I think, Paul, too, with that, we go back to the fact that we're not flush with developable land around here, at least not for the long term. So I think the more opportunities we can leave open for evaluation, the better off we're going to be.
We're going to eminent domain your house.
Those were my 3 questions to date. I'll likely have more substantially in another month. So it was just, so I appreciate the feedback and thank you. And again, you're welcome to call me and chat with me about it, and we can continue to take feedback as it comes in.
I would encourage you to contact staff and maybe come in and get the long view and get all your questions answered, so.
Thank you for being proactive.
And a thank you to SEH who wrote the code for the city. They are our consultant on this project. So they have done the bulk of the work in terms of reviewing codes across the country and trying to craft something that will keep in Onalaska's design standards for what we're looking for such districts. So I
Katie?
just wanted to thank them for that.
Just say thank you.
Thank you.
Don't try to push it off on somebody else. When you do a good job, just say thank you. Somebody gives you a compliment. Okay, item 8, review and discussion on the general boundary agreement between the city of Onalaska and the town of Madera, and notification of the public hearing regarding the boundary agreement on November 17th, 2016. Katie?
Thank you. So this is a late arrival to the agenda, which was not on the plan subcommittee. The primary purpose is that the city and the town of Madera have been working diligently to create a boundary agreement between the two communities, and we will be hosting a joint public hearing on Thursday, November 17th, 2016 at 6 p.m. at Eagle Bluff. Please put this on your calendar. That is the primary purpose for having this on the agenda, because we are going to want to have a quorum. Otherwise, we won't be able to host meeting.
What time is it again?
6 p.m.
Okay.
And it's where?
at the Eagle Bluff in their music room. There will be signage, I promise.
Where? Eagle Bluff?
Eagle Bluff.
You go in,
East Main.
the minute you
Theater
get in the
and,
door,
yep.
Okay.
it's to the right. The minute you get in the door, it's right to the right.
So,
Yeah, it's right inside the door, so.
So there will be options to discuss this. I didn't expect everyone to be able to discuss it tonight, just because of it wasn't in the plan subcommittee packet. You can have comments to myself, and we can offer them, but the primary discussion will be in October, so that the Plan Commission has an opportunity to review it, because at, again, the November 17th meeting, it will be a listening session where we get to accept the feedback and no discussion by the Plan Commissions at that time. Yes.
One quick question. When do you expect to have the maps ready to distribute?
Because this isn't much good without the maps, honestly. It's
Correct. This is what I received as of yet, but as soon as I get them, I'm hopeful that they will be in your October meeting packet.
Okay.
Yes, they will be, Courtney. They'll be there. So we're closer.
Greg?
Just as a commentary, I haven't been in every one of these, but I've been involved in enough of these to, I think we need to commend our staff, and Jared, you've been heavily involved in this, so don't put your head down. Watching these folks operate with the townships and the villages that we've worked with has truly been a pleasure. I mean, it's wonderful to see them work. Jared's done a great job. in being able to bridge any gaps and address any issues that we've had. And quite frankly, the towns that we've worked with have been very good to work with. I mean, these are good folks that really want the same outcomes as we do. So I'm really excited about this. It's been a great process, and I think the outcome's going to be good for everybody.
I also want to applaud staff and send a message directly from Mike Weibel from Town of Madera. You said that the staff was very professional and very helpful in working with the Town of Madera. So we get to pat you on the back one more time tonight yet. So thank you, everybody. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Motion to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? We stand adjourned at 8:13.
So much sitting. We should do standing meetings.
Well, at least you ride your bike.